welcome all. My name is Kate Meyer. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here at the Women's Resource Center in Alamance County. We are an organization that's dedicated to empowering women to improve and enrich their lives. And we invite you to visit our website to learn about who we are, our programs and services, and any upcoming events. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome the founder of Truist Coaching and Counseling, Trudy Tobias. Trudy is a certified rapid results life coach, a licensed clinical social worker with decades of experience in mental health settings, and the author of Reinventing Yourself at Any Age, a practical and spiritual manual. So Trudy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, thank you, Kate. So good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I guess. And thank you for choosing to spend your time here. And I know there's lots of other things you can do, and lots of people are getting zoomed out. So thank you for showing up. So those of you who have heard me before know this, but I'm just going to run it quickly. Truist Coaching, my logo is a dragonfly because dragonflies stand for transformation. A lot of people think of butterflies, but dragonflies, and I'm wearing a dragonfly necklace. Dragonflies stand for, they start out, if you don't know it, as water creatures. And then when it's time, they climb the reeds and become airborne creatures. So they breathe water and then they breathe air. They're also been around since prehistoric time, which means that they're very adaptable. I mean, just think about it, and they're very strong. And at the same time, even though their wings look very delicate, and that's what I think I like to work with my clients. I want to help them transform from where they are to where they want to go, but also for them to know inherently that they're strong and flexible and capable and adaptable, just like the dragonfly. Okay, so managing stress successfully for 2021. I've been teaching stress management since the 70s. Wow, I'm much too young to be able to say these things, you understand. So anyhow, you know, we're always learning more things, and it's always time to practice and learn more. So I would like participation. You could do it in the chat if you don't want to say it out loud, and Kate will read it, or you can say it out loud. What is your definition of stress? Everybody's here saying, oh, I came because I want to talk about stress. Well, what do you think it is? I don't have takers. I'm going to call on you.
Being overwhelmed.
Being overwhelmed. Very good. Yeah, that feeling of overwhelmment. Good. Good. All right.
Yep, definitely sensory overload and feeling like you want to, it's the fight or flight thing. You don't know whether to, I tend to want to run away from all of it.
So you're on the flight side. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got some good responses in the chat. We've got life, feeling overwhelmed, feeling too much pressure, and not being able to stop thinking about something.
Very good, you guys. Okay. Yeah. Well, stress can be all of those. What or who? I like that one. Who do you think causes stress? Like your ex-spouse, your children, your boss? Who? What or who? The weather?
I think it's me.
Ah, very good, Caroline. You're way ahead of the group. Anybody else? Now
Situations. Situations and how we respond to them.
Very good. We've got a break group here. Yeah.
And then we got Patty says self, relationship, and environment.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, all of the above, but I especially like that you guys are already thinking about things. So I know we sent a workbook to you this morning. You may not have gotten it, but one of the other things that can cause stress is a lot of change, because human beings are homeostasis. We like things to be the same. So even if it's a change that we desire, it can have the capability of causing stress. So if you can, just look at, this is in your workbook. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at it, because I know we just sent it out. But this was done from a study by Holmes and Rott in the 60s, about what causes the most stressful life events. And they give points per thing, and it depends. And they say if these things have occurred in the last 2 years, you would give yourself the points for that. So if you want to turn to your book, you can see it. And here are the next 10, and you can see the points. Anybody, so you can see that sometimes there's something that we would think is positive and it still causes a lot of stress, right? Like marriage, when we usually enter marriage, we think of that as happy, or we hope to be, right? Or retirement. You know, you might have been waiting your whole working career for retirement, and yet it still can cause a lot of stress because it is a change. But let's look at what's going on in our world right now, because in that list, there's a lot of things that probably are hitting us so much more than they would have. All right, change of health of a family member. And also what it said previously about, you know, death of a close family member or spouse. Business readjustment. Wow, for those of you who are still working, isn't that a big one? Change in financial state. So if your business changes, financial does too. Sometimes we've had to change to a different line of work, or our responsibilities have changed. Maybe we have to take over more. The son or daughter leaving home. It used to be I put in or coming back home, because I know lots of clients where all of a sudden their adult children are back because maybe whatever they were doing ended and now they need financial assistance. Spouse begins or stops work. Beginning or ending school or college. Now this is interesting, right? Because our colleges have opened and closed, as have our schools. So where does that go? They didn't list virtual school, but that is certainly for people with young kids like my daughter. That is really difficult. She has 4 children, one's a baby, but the other 3 are in different grades, and she had to monitor every single one of their computers. You can't just tell a kid, sit at your computer, right, and do it. And she had to space them out into different rooms so that they weren't hearing and getting in each other's way. Yeah. Revision of personal habits. So how many of you are like, wow, I got to wear a mask today, right? That's a personal habit, isn't it? That certainly was a revision. And I think it was actually more stressful around June and July when they started saying, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask.
Right.
And you have to keep making decisions. Do I or don't I?
Yep.
You know? Yeah, you're agreeing, Pam? Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I still want to wear a mask even more now with the Delta variant.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And
I think
there's so many variants coming out now. So,
but I think it's clear. What I think is helpful is they're back to saying, if you're indoors, wear a mask. So now we don't have to make that decision unless you want to go counter to what they're mandating, you know, which some people still do. But I'm saying before, when they were saying, you're okay, you know, it was like,
yeah.
well, should I or shouldn't I?
Right.
So change in work hours or conditions, right? Kate, you're working from home today, right? Yep. See, and I know you work in the center as well. And this, I think, these 34, 35, and 36 on that thing, you know, this is what I think is really a shame, because these are things that would help us cope, right? Recreation, having fun, being with, if you're in a church or a spiritual organization, or just having social activities, and all of that's been diminished. So a lot of our coping strategies have been taken away. Change the number of family get-togethers. Yep. Like last Thanksgiving and Christmas, I was at home because my family lives out of town. I was at home by myself. Vacation. Now this is normally vacation, but now we even can't really go on them too much. And Christmas. Now, 40 change in eating habits. How many people, well, you may not want to say, have gained weight during COVID?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. I'm one of the few people I know that actually lost weight because I went on a program and I wasn't tempted because I wasn't going out. my temptation comes from social eating, and I wasn't socializing. So,
And mine is comfort eating.
yeah, I was actually surprised, but it turned out well for me. But yes, most people have gained weight. So somebody mentioned the fight, flight, or freeze. This
That's
is what
me.
happens when we're under stress. Our body produces more cortisol and adrenaline. That is actually the physiological definition of stress. Our bodies feel it, right? You can feel when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, like people were saying, when you're trying to get more done than you have time to get done, or you're trying to make a decision, do I wear a mask or not? You know, that creates a lot of stress, which is felt in the body by cortisol and adrenaline flowing through it. And people, this is the stress reaction, physiological. We fight, we flee, or we freeze, like a deer caught in the headlight. But let's see, what can we do about it? So stress can be eustress, and eustress is a word that means useful stress. Stress can be useful. If you're standing in the middle of the street and you see a Mack truck coming at you, your heart's going to start beating, and you know your cortisol and adrenaline are going to start flowing, but hopefully it gets you to move and run out of the way, right? Hopefully you're not freezing in front of the Mack truck. You're doing something about it. Or let's say you have a presentation at work, or you're a student and you have to take care of homework or get something ready. Stress, if it can be like, whoops, I've got to get this done now. So it can be useful in that way. What makes it distress, though? And one thing I want to point out to you is it's a very interesting thing. Distress, dis-ease, and disease. So you look at that Holmes and Ra, that, you know, the inventory that was sent out to you. What I'd like you guys to do is, not now, but I would really like you to take your time and count up your points and see where you are on that. Now, according to what they found out was that the more of those points you have, the greater the likelihood that you will become ill, because our immune system goes down when we are under a lot of stress. That's what happens. Okay, so it's not, you know, why am I like let's just say a cold. Let's just say a cold. So if you're experiencing, you know, you haven't had enough sleep, or you're not eating well, or whatever, because you're stressed out about things, you're more likely to get a cold. Now, I want you to make sure that you look at that and says, this does not have to happen. I don't want you to get programmed in your head that, oh, if this happens, I have to get sick. This is just a study that they did in the 60s. They did revise it to talk about a mortgage in the financial thing. If you see it in there originally, this is so funny. If you had a mortgage over $10,000, that was considered stressful. So they did revise it. But anyhow, that's what they found. So it's just, though, I just wanted you to, you know, be aware of that, which makes the importance of self-care so critical, absolutely so critical. And one of the things that often goes out the window when we are stressed out with obligations and different things is our self-care. But you cannot take care of anybody or anything else unless you take care of yourself. And I know I've done a presentation on self-care. I just wanted to remind everybody about this. So what is self-care to relieve stress? Well, again, and some of you have heard this before, and this is also in your workbook, I'd really like you to take the time to look at that and fill it out for yourselves. So it says what are the activities that you do for these things or don't do, and how frequent and how frequently would you like to do them. So social needs, so important. And again, this has certainly been impacted by what's going on right now, that our social needs are probably not being addressed as well as they need to. That's why, if you can, and if you feel safe, do something that gets those needs met. You know, meet somebody outside. I've walked with people and had them go on the opposite side of the street, especially before the vaccinations occurred. And at least we were walking together, kind of shouting back and forth, but we were, but we were together. Emotional needs. So what are we doing to heal our heart, our emotions? And for some of us, like Pam mentioned, that's comfort food, but we can do some healthy things too. Maybe that is writing in a journal. Maybe that is reading, believe it or not, reading a book. I love reading. So what satisfies my emotional needs? And intellectual needs. We all need to do something that pushes us intellectually, that strives to learn something new, because that keeps us involved in life, and it literally changes our brains. We now know that there are new synapses. Synapses are the little, the neurons that are in our brain. There's a little space between them, and the synapses is that space. So when we learn new things, we learn how to, the current of the brain actually learns how to jump that synapse into the next one. Physical needs. So regardless of what's going on, take some time to, even if it's like, I love living in North Carolina right now because I'm from Chicago, in case you couldn't tell. And it's so much easier for me to meet my physical needs here because I love going outside and taking walks and doing things like that, which certainly get prohibited in Chicago. And being creative. Again, all of us, I mean, they even saw drawings, right, on the caves for the caveman. We all have this innate need to be creative, whether it's learning to cook something, whether it's learning to paint, whether it's doing crafts or needlework, but that is an innate need that we have. And then our spiritual needs, and I'm not saying necessarily religious, but just to feel that you are part of a bigger picture and feel connected to that. So take some time to go through that in your workbook, see where you are and see where you would like to be. Now, it would be stressful for me to tell you, change absolutely everything on there, because that's saying, to do a lot. I'm suggesting strongly that you pick one of those areas and just make the change in one of those areas for now. Then see where you are in 3 weeks. Okay. Actually, it takes 62 days to make a permanent change. So see if you can get yourself, whether it's the physical, whatever it is, what can you start to do more frequently? But just choose one so you don't get overwhelmed. And this is a really important thing to remember, is that it's not the things that happen around us or even the things that happen to us. The only things that really count are the things that happen in you, inside of you. So you guys kind of touched on this, and let's talk about it more. So good for you guys. A stressor is anything that has the potential of causing stress. But what is the difference between making it just causing stress or distress, which is when it's over the top stress? You guys said it before. Anybody want to chime in?
How we respond to it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's our individual makeup, right? So it's our individual makeup that makes the difference of how we respond to something. For example, one reason I left Chicago was because I don't like snow, okay? And I'm one of the people that used to get stressed out by having to drive in snow. Back in the day, they didn't have such things as snow days where you could take time off of work. I think they do it more now, but we had to get to work. They didn't care whether it took 2 to 3 hours in a snowstorm to get there. Kids went to school in that as well. So, it was stressful. I was a knuckle driver. I get a kick out of things now when people hear when they go snow and they go, "Oh no, we can't drive." And I'm like, really? Anyhow, so it's our life experience and what happens, but it's not, I gave it away here. We don't get our feelings, our emotions from the life experience. Where do we get them from? If you were quick, you just saw it. Anyone? All right, well, it's our thoughts. And then it's the thoughts we think. Our thoughts form our beliefs. Now, what a belief is just a thought that you have thought over and over and over again until you believe it's true. Doesn't mean it's true, but you think it is. And then it's the story. And those of you, we talked about this a lot in another presentation, but the story we tell ourselves. This is how it works. A life experience, like you might say, oh, well, I could always tell that my mom never thought I was good enough. And if that's the belief that you have a whole story around that, and you can prove it. You can give lots of examples. Doesn't mean that it's true. Just like Christopher Columbus, just because everybody else said the world was flat didn't mean it was true. So is that life experience going to be a stressor? For me, snow was a stressor. For my then husband, he loved driving in the snow. Same life experience, gently falling snowflakes in Chicago, piling up. But I found it stressful. He didn't. So again, for those of you who've been listening to my presentations or reading my book, you know this, but we're going to go through it again because it's so critical. So this is what happens. Our brain records everything that we have experienced through our 5 physical senses, or the thoughts or beliefs, the story that we've been telling ourselves. It's important to know your brain does not care if it's true or false, positive or negative, stressful or peaceful. It does not care. It just will give you whatever you tell it. Our brains are a biocomputer, all right? And they accept everything that we give it, just like a programmer programs a computer. The computer doesn't argue back with the programmer. Okay. Now we know, everybody know how much the average adult brain weighs? If you want to hazard a guess. Pretty interesting to me anyhow.
We've got guesses of 3 pounds, 9 pounds, and another one of 3 pounds.
Okay, well, the 3-pounders are close. It's 3 to 3.5 pounds. Which is fascinating when you think about that our brains process 10 gigabytes of information, of data per second. So it's monitoring what's going on in our bodies and what's going on around us and what you're hearing as I speak, everything. But our mind is that part that thinks thoughts. So the mind is actually the programmer, right? It knows the difference between positive, negative, true or false. It will give whatever, it gives it to the brain though. And we don't know exactly where the mind is. Sometimes we all wonder where our minds are, don't we? But the mind is non-physical. You know, we now know, since we do all this brain scan works, we know there's a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere, and we know which part has to do with vision and which part, the amygdala, has to do with emotions, which part has to do with memory. I mean, they know it. They've mapped this all out in the brain, but no, they've never found a mind. They've never said, oops, here's the mind. So the mind is non-physical. Some people think it's like in every cell of our bodies. Some people think that since it's spiritual because it's non-physical, but it is the programmer. So what does that mean for our biocomputer brains? Well, if we had a computer that was originally programmed in Great Britain, how would that, and then we transported it because we were moving back to the United States, how would that computer think the word behavior is spelled? Not think. How would the computer tell you that the word behavior is spelled? Anybody know how they spell behavior in Great Britain? Or theater or color? They're all different than how we spell things in the United States.
Dolores added with a U.
Yes, correct, Dolores. Very good. It is how it's spelled. Behavior has a U, color has a U, theater has RE at the end instead of ER. It's just interesting. I've picked up novels not knowing that the author was British until I started reading and saw some words and how they were spelled. And I was like, oh, all right, this was not published in the United States. Or it might have been published, but it wasn't written in the United States. Does the computer all of a sudden know it has to change how the word behavior is spelled because now it's in the United States? It does not know that. It has to rely on the programmer to change it. Okay. And then we can think of our bodies as the printout. So if we're experiencing something that's stressful, that cortisol is going to be released, and that adrenaline, whether it's true or not. Anybody ever think that maybe somebody was following them or that something was scary and then they found out that it wasn't? I mean, the person was somebody they knew or something else, but their bodies were going like, ah, right? Because our brains said, danger, danger, Will Robinson, when it wasn't. So I like to think of our spirit. If this doesn't fit for you, that's okay, but our spirit is the power. So we've got the mind is the programmer, the biocomputer brain, the printout of the body, but then nothing's going to work unless we put it into electricity, right? We were talking about that earlier among ourselves about how we needed electricity to get things done. And that, I think, comes from the mind. That's our power. What's cool about that, saying that's our power, is guess who gets to decide what you are going to think? Yep, Kate was pointing to herself. And that's what I think is our superpower as human beings. This is a principle taught by Unity. Our thoughts are our creative power, and whatever we persistently focus our thoughts and feelings upon manifests in our lives. So I bet if you started thinking about it, you could see that that is true. It doesn't mean that you wanted it to manifest necessarily, you know, and it's not, it's like a vibrational level kind of thing. What's important though, is to recognize that whatever we are paying attention to is stronger than our intentions. Okay, whatever we're paying attention to is stronger than our intentions. We will go in the direction of our attention. Anybody ever be driving a car? I do this a little too frequently, actually. And then you see something that you really is of interest. Maybe it's a house that's being built, and you know, I love seeing what they're doing with that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden I realize my car is going like towards the towards the curb, because that's where I was focused. I wasn't intending to go off the road. My intention was to drive straight, but I was paying attention to something else. So how do you know when you're on course? Look at what has shown up in your life, and then you'll know what you've been paying attention to. So how do we change that? Well, it's to know that our thoughts that we decide on gather energy. How do you think thoughts gather energy? What do you have to do to get them to gather energy? You know, you think it's a trick question.
You have to act on them.
Well, that's how it becomes part of your reality. But yeah, Dolores, that's one of the first steps. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
Believe it?
I'm sorry, Caroline, what did you say?
We have to believe our thoughts or
Well,
focus on what
right.
they are.
And how do we get to believe them?
Continue to think them.
Very good, Kelly. Exactly. That's it. That is it. It gathers energy the more we think about it, the stronger it becomes. And then it impacts our reality. So if I said to everybody right now, I want you to think of anything but a pink elephant, what would you say? What would you say? I said, don't think of a pink elephant. What did anybody see? We cannot not think, right? So you saw that pink elephant, I would imagine, in your mind. And then the more we focus on it, Oh, wow, the bigger that pink elephant becomes. Right? So anybody ever have, I'm sure this has never happened, you have an argument with somebody you love, and you keep thinking about it as you're driving along, and it gets more and more energy to it until what happens in your body? Anyone? Is there anything in the chat, Kate? Because I can't see.
You develop an emotion connected to those thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And also what happens to our body.
It responds to the thoughts.
Yeah. And so if it's a pink elephant thought, which is what I call a thought you wish you weren't thinking, what's going to happen? Does your brain and body care that it's may not even be true? Nope. It just knows what you gave it. So if you're thinking of an unhelpful thought, the first part is just to be aware of it. And the second part is once you become aware, it's like that boop, V8 moment. I could have had a V8. You want to stop the energy flow. So if I said to you guys right now, anytime you think of a pink elephant, instead, I want you to think of a blue giraffe. Could you do it? Just right now. Can you do it? Can you focus on a blue giraffe instead of a pink elephant? Sure you can, because we have that ability. When I say we, I mean human beings. Animals don't. We have choices. Okay. So when you are thinking a new helpful thought, then you want it to gather energy. So let's say our new helpful thought is that blue giraffe. Then you keep thinking of the blue giraffe until that becomes your reality. And it does take practice, but it doesn't take whether you're 40, 50, 60 years old. That does not mean that you need that long to change it. Generally speaking, it takes 62 days of consistency thinking of a new thought before it becomes natural. And then the new synapses occur. If you had a shed out in your backyard and you always walk to it from your porch, what happens to the grass between the porch and the shed?
Gets worn out.
It does. It gets worn out because it's a pathway now. So what if for whatever reason you decided to go out your side door instead to the shed, and you kept doing that consistently, not every now and then, but consistently? What would happen with both routes?
You have a new path.
You have a new path, and the other path would grow over again. That's what happens when we learn something new. It takes, like I said, about 62 days of persistency and consistency for that to lock in. That's why my programs are usually 3 months long, to really help people get to that 62 days. Other things you can do also is just by changing some words. Now, this is also in your workbook, but here are words. So commands. These commands are probably the most stressful words in the English language. They are words to toss. When we say we should or shouldn't, must, ought to, or somebody else should do it this way, we're creating a lot of stress, right? Should, wow, it means it's almost like there's a force behind it. It should be this way, and it's not. This is, again, think of that thought cycle with the gather energy. Instead, when you catch yourself saying should, change it to I prefer, or I want, or I would like it if. Doesn't that have a different energy behind it? Like, wow, my husband should have remembered to take out the garbage. And then you're getting all mad about it. Wow, I really would have liked it if he had taken out the garbage. Doesn't that have a different energy? It's going to create a different feeling in your body to avoid that stress situation. See, right now, we can't control what's happening in the outer world. The only world we can control is ourselves. So these are the things that we're learning to do by these techniques that I'm giving you. Okay. The other thing is overgeneralizations. Like if you always think, oh, I always make that mistake, or no one will ever love me, whatever, that causes a lot of stress. Instead, just change it to sometimes or a lot. You can even change it to often in some people. It's different though than saying everyone. I was a school social worker for a number of years, and kids would come in and say, no one likes me. And I would say, that's not true. And they say, yeah, it is. No one likes me. And I go, well, I like you, so therefore it's not true. Right? So I know what they were talking about. They were talking about their peers. Nonetheless, there's a difference between saying everyone or always is this way, you know, I'll never get out of this mess. That's a lot different than, okay, it's taking some time to get out of this mess, and it can happen. Responsibility. Unless we take responsibility for ourselves, we're going to continue to put it on someone else. It's always going to cause, here I go with always, it's going to cause stress, right? How many times in the American English language do we say this? You make me angry, or you make me sick. What? Nobody can make anybody feel anything. Go back to that one about the life event and our feelings, and what happens in between is our thoughts, right? Nobody can make you feel anything. They can't make you angry, can't make you happy. It's your thoughts about whatever is occurring. That means that you're responsible for it. And the good news about that is then, yes, you can choose to be happy. It might not be a situation that you like, but you can still choose to be happy. Does that sound weird? I don't like the COVID's going on. I don't like it. It interferes a lot with my life. And guess what? I still am emotionally okay. I mean, I still experience joy. I'm not focused on that. Yes, it is. I can't change that. So one of the things I do is I don't listen to the news. Now, I'm not saying that that will work for everybody, but news is very stressful. One of the habits you may want to get into is not listen to the news, especially at night before you go to sleep. Okay, I read my news. I get it on the internet, and then I get to choose what I'm going to skip over. And believe me, there's a lot that I skip over. Okay. And catastrophizing. We all know people who do this. Maybe it's yourself too, but you know that everything, oh, this is the worst. It's so horrible, unfair, impossible. Again, you don't have to like it, but you can start to tell yourself, I can handle it. All right, I made a mistake. It's okay. I might prefer it this way, but it's okay. All right, in the here and now, it is okay. Unless somebody is threatening to kill you right at the moment, it is okay. Any comments on that? I know I'm making this, I have to tell you, I'm making this very simple. And I also know it's not easy. All right, it's simple, it's not easy to put all of this into practice. Yet this is what is, I have found, one of the best ways to help de-stress all these things that I'm teaching right now. So what happens with all those words and those thoughts? Well, we end up with some limiting beliefs that cause distress. Now, why is that important? Do you know that you can train, we'll go back to the elephant. You can train an elephant. Do you know how, when the circuses were around, do you know how they trained elephants not to take off? You know what they did? When the elephants were babies, they put a really big, heavy chain on one of their legs, and the babies couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't move except for where the length of the chain would let them. It's one good reason that circuses no longer are around, although I used to enjoy them, I must admit. Then what happens when the elephants get really big? They could break that chain real easily. But you know what? The circus people would just put a rope around it, which is even less easier to break. Let's try that again. It's easier to break, but the elephants wouldn't do it. Why?
Because in their mind, they thought it was the chain.
Yeah,
And they were little.
exactly. They conditioned themselves that, oh, I've got something on my leg. I can't move further than this. They didn't even try. And how often do we do that to ourselves? This happened to me as a kid. I can't even try to something new or whatever. Okay. So here are, now I want you to look at, as I bring these up, I'd like you just to, in your own mind, you don't have to say it out loud, pick them if they resonate with you. You could just write down the number. Okay. Every time I have presented this, there's at least one belief that people have. And I haven't run across a situation where nobody has that belief. Now, if we had a long workshop time, I would actually be going through all of this with you and walking you through it, everything that we've been discussing. But right now, I'm just trying to give you some information and have enough time. What do we go to, Kate? To 1:45? Yeah. So I am going to actually do an experiential relaxation technique with you. So I'm just right now, though, that's why I gave you the workbook. You can do these things on your own. Okay. Caroline, did you have a question?
No. I'm
Okay. All right. So just see if this fits for you. I also want you to look at which words in there are those words to toss or to cancel out. In that particular one, there's two of them. Anybody want to guess?
everyone must.
Yep, it's everyone and must, right? The must is a command and everyone is that overgeneralization. How about this one? I must be good at everything. Do we have any perfectionists in the house? That causes so much, being a perfectionist causes a lot of stress, in case you didn't know. Like I'm preaching to the choir. I have some blogs on that if you want to get onto my website, truiscoaching.com, and read them. So, all right. I must be good at everything. I know something bad will happen. So those are your pessimists. It's easier not to even try. So these are the people that just give up easily. I know it's not going to work. They're not going to hire me, so why should I apply? That kind of thing. I need someone stronger than I am. Now, at times we all need other people. This means like the feeling like you cannot do it. And as long as you think I need someone stronger than I am, you're right. That's one of the things about beliefs. As long as you believe them, you're right. So me telling you this is not true, you are probably thinking in your head, Trudy, you don't know what you're talking about. This is true. I'm going to teach you a way to undo it. I'm too blank to do blank. I'm too old. I'm too uneducated, whatever it is that we've been telling ourselves. Am I going too fast or are you guys getting these? I know I started picking up the pace. Okay, anybody not okay? I can't see everybody on my gallery view.
I'm not getting anybody saying slow down, so.
Okay, all righty. Things should be different. Here we go with that should again, right? How many of us are saying that right now during this pandemic? It's your fault I feel this way. That goes back to that responsibility. I can't help it. This is just the way I am. Nothing's going to change. I cannot be happy unless, and this means something outside of yourself, because you can be happy if you choose to be happy. Because X happened, I must be bad, worthless. So I worked with a client years ago who had been raped. It was years before. It was affecting her marriage because she was like, how can my husband love me when this has happened to me? It was the story she was telling herself. And who do I think I am? Anybody ever grow up with parents who are like, you're getting too big for your britches, right? That type of thing. There are more, but these are the basic ones. Now, what's really fascinating, again, going back to the brain research that's been done for the last 30, 35 years, they actually can brain scan, and there is a difference between a negative thinker and a positive thinker. Isn't that fascinating what parts of the brain light up? Now, one of the reasons we need to exercise our ability to change the way we think is because we human beings have been created to be negative. We are hardwired, our brains are hardwired for negativity. Now, why would that happen? Well, let's think about our origins of caveman time. And let's think about what we are capable of doing. Do we have a hide, a strong hide? No, it's easily very vulnerable. Do we have claws? Not really, right? Do we have sharp teeth? Can we run? Not as fast as most animals. What did we have that caused us to survive? Yep, I see Dolores pointing. Our ability to think, our ability to figure out how to solve problems. So we might have gotten into that stress. You see a saber-toothed tiger coming. We figure out how to get away from it. Maybe it's climbing a tree or hiding in a cave or something and then blocking the cave. But that's what, so we as human beings, we are still programmed more for the negative. We are still programmed to get into that fight, flight, and freeze stress reaction. That's why it happens so quickly and so easily. That was what enabled us to figure out what to do. One of the interesting things, though, is that so negative thinking just is. Positive thinking we have to work at. All right. Now, what we have found is that it takes 5 positive statements, or it takes 5 times as long to overcome a negative thought. It can be done, again, with consistency and persistency. This is important for those of you who have kids and grandkids, by the way. If you criticize them, which we all do because we're disciplining them, and discipline, by the way, means to teach. It takes 5 compliments or praiseworthy things to counteract that negative that you just mentioned. So just think about that. We need, as human beings, to grow and thrive, we need to be have 5 more positive thoughts than negative thoughts a day. Okay? And that comes from within us, because people aren't going around saying you're wonderful all the time. Now, how does it come within us? And I know some of you have been to my other programs, you've seen this before. It's called creating a positive affirmation. Remember, the brain does not care or even know what's positive, negative, true or false. It will record whatever you give it. So what do you want to give it? Well, there's a formula. And by the way, I have some coping statements in your workbook as well. So I've given you some affirmations that help you cope with stress. If you want to formulate your own, this is the formula. You use I, because there's a law in psychology that whatever you attach to the I am, you eventually become. You state positively what you want, not negatively, because again, the brain has trouble understanding a negative command. Did you ever tell a child, don't run in the house? And what does the child do? Yeah, they run, right? If you said walk when you're in the house, that would be giving that child's brain a very clear message, and they can picture, oh, walk, but don't run is confusing. So you want to state it positively. Instead of I won't get sick, I stay healthy. See the difference? You want to, that's really important. So state what you want instead of what you don't want. Put it in the present tense as if it is already true. Not, I will lose weight tomorrow. I will go on a diet. Well, that puts it always in the future, right? I am releasing weight right now. It's putting it in the present. And then your actions are going to change accordingly. Now, if you're giving yourself a statement that you don't yet believe, like I am courageous and strong, and you're going, oh, that's not true. You can always back it up and say, I am in the process of becoming more courageous daily. Okay. And your brain will say, okay, that sounds good. And then the next day you still say, I'm in the process of becoming more courageous daily. All right. You've got your brain on your side now. And you want to state it as specifically as possible. So for example, if you just want to say, Oh, and I know something like courageous isn't really it. So what you could do with that is I am becoming more courageous daily in order to tell my boss I need a raise. That's being specific. I am becoming more courageous daily so that I can leave a toxic relationship. That's being more specific. And you will get results, greater results. Okay. So this is the formula to create positive affirmations. As I said, I have some about stress in there. Like I can handle it. That's a great stress relief. I might not like what's occurring and I can handle it. There's all, you know, somebody cuts you off in traffic. What happens when we get scared physiologically? Anyone know? How are we breathing? Kelly, go ahead.
Fight or flight.
And what happens, right? And what happens though, what systems, bodily systems get involved?
Well, your adrenaline begins to flood your body, so that response, if you're in a, you know, an emergency or a crisis response, your body is going to physiologically respond.
Absolutely. And how do we breathe when we're in that physiological response mode? When we're stressed and scared?
Fast.
Yeah,
Breathe fast.
And shallowly, right? Yeah, that's going to become important when we do our technique, which we're going to have time to do. So, okay. Very good. So, yeah, that's what happens. Our body starts responding. So, that was the formula. Now, this is what you do to help yourself with the persistency and consistency. On your nightstand, hand print, either on an index card or a Post-it note, hand print 1 to 3 affirmations, no more, just 1 to 3, because otherwise it gets too much. The reason you hand print is because a computer makes it too distant and cursive makes it too personal, because our personalities, anybody who's ever done any writing analysis knows that our cursive writing, which is a dead art for most people these days, but those of us who still remember how to do cursive actually reflects on our personality. So you want to hand print. You want it brief because you want it to be easily memorized. So be as brief as possible. If you first write it out and you see it's pretty long, see what you can do to make it more succinct. As I said, no more than 3. And then you also want to use your 5 physical senses while you are reading them. So what does that mean? You read it, but you go, if you're saying, oh, I handle stress easily, then imagine how your body feels when you're handling stress easily. Imagine somebody saying to you, wow, you're doing a really good job of staying calm. Imagine how you would be breathing and how you could hear your breathing. Okay, you want to get as many senses involved as possible. It makes it more real. Because remember, your brain will record whatever you give it. It's perfectly happy to do that. You act as if it is already true. Again, how many of you ever had a dream where you thought you were falling and you kicked your foot out because you were going to try to catch yourself? This is the same principle. The brain did not know until you awakened in your mind, said, oh, it was a dream. The brain just accepted it as true. It saw the picture. It went to protect you, as the brain will do. So you kicked your foot out and you're laying in bed, right? Instead, it woke you up. And gratitude. Having gratitude that this has already transformed is so important. So you can, after you do your affirmation, you can say, thank you. If you believe, you could say, thank you, God. You could say, thank you, Spirit. You could thank you, Source. Thank you, Universe. Thank you, higher self, inner being, whatever works for you. Okay. And the best time to do this is right as you're going to sleep and first thing upon awakening. And the reason for that is when we are at a more relaxed brain level, our brains are more receptive to new information. That's why little kids are so easy to program which is why it's so important how we talk to them, because they are at this what we call the alpha brain level much more frequently than adults. That's one reason they take naps so much. Okay. So as we are about to relax, the alpha brain level is where we night dream and daydream, and where we're most easily susceptible to getting new information. And notice doctors, if you go to a doctor, they'll say, go home and get some rest. They don't say go to sleep. They tell you to rest. This is what you're doing. You're getting in that alpha brain level. So another technique, I don't think this is in your workbook. It might be. Check it out. If it isn't, you might want to write this down. You want to state like, wow, I'm really feeling stressed out. What's happening? State the situation factually and objectively. In other words, anybody who saw the situation would see the same thing. Doesn't mean they would feel the same way about it, but they would see the same thing. How am I feeling? So you ask yourself, you know, like some people's households, some people live in what I would consider a mess and they're fine with it, right? I had a friend of mine who came in from out of town a week or two ago. She goes, you've got an awful lot of stuff around here. She's right. I like to have, well, instead of one picture on the wall, I'll have a gallery of pictures. All right. I like it that way. She found it overwhelming, but I like it that way. So you know, it's whatever causes you stress. That would not be a situation she would be comfortable in. So what am I saying and thinking to myself? And then using those words to toss and using those beliefs that I mentioned and those coping statements, instead go through it and say, what could I say or think instead to help myself? And then how would I feel? And then how would I behave? And you will notice that your stress level changes. Do I need to keep this up? Everybody got it? Okay, so this is what happens. This is what I call the schematic. So our mind, there's a life experience or event, and our mind thinks thoughts and beliefs and makes up a story about it, because that's just how we operate. And then from there, we have feelings based on the story that we're telling ourselves. And then we can choose whether we're going to just react without thinking or whether we're going to respond. And things that help us to get into that response mode are meditation and changing our thoughts. I have vibrations there because one of the things that happens is our feelings, our emotions has energy. There's vibration to it. And when we can calm that down, we can calm our thoughts, we can calm our body, and we will have different life results and we will take different actions. So what happens instead is, okay, we have a new life experience. It might be the same life experience originally, but by changing our feelings, our thoughts, our beliefs, we change our feelings so that we respond, which changes our actions, which changes our life results. Okay. So I'm going to have us do a technique. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen because we do have a left brain and a right brain hemisphere. The left brain is logical. It wants to know what the heck is going on. Our right brain is intuitive and emotional. When we can get both of them together, that is the best way to learn new information. So one of the values, meditation, and I'm not talking about sitting in a pretzel, even like this guy is. I'm talking about you can just be sitting down, you can be laying down, but what you want to experience is a sense of expansion. You're not going to necessarily hear the voice of God or whatever, but if you are feeling when you're doing this a sense of contraction, then you will know it's your ego talking to you. If you feel a sense of expansion and release and relief, then you know that you are in that meditative state. And you might only be there for 30 seconds out of 15 minutes. That's fine because you're learning. Okay. So we're going to do the technique now. And if you would be more comfortable to turn off your video to do this, go right ahead. Now we talked about, I mentioned I was going to tell you what is going to happen when we do this. So you're going to you're going to, the breath is the only system in our bodies that we can control, a physiological system, I should say, that we can control and also happens automatically. You're not sitting here thinking, I have to remember to inhale and exhale. It's happening automatically. But when you go to the doctor's office and he tells you, take a deep breath, you can do that, right? If you're swimming underwater, you can hold your breath, right? We can do these things for a certain length of time. What I want you to do when I say take long, slow, deep breaths, if any of you are singers, you'll know this. If not, it's a diaphragmatic breath. And if you're getting, don't get lost in the weeds about this. What it means is you're taking a deep breath where your stomach expands first and then your chest, because you're getting a full diaphragmatic breath. And when you exhale through your mouth, your chest is going to go down first and then your abdomen, which is actually your diaphragm. Okay. Taking long, slow, deep breaths in and of itself is a great stress reliever. If you're in a stressful situation, even like you're in the middle of a meeting at work, take some long, slow, deep breaths. Nobody else has to know. It will help you to relieve anxiety and stress. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do those 3 deep breaths. Focus on different parts of your body. We're going to do it a little quicker version than there's a longer version. We're going to do the shorter version due to time, but you will still experience all the benefits. I'm going to give you a visualization to help you with your mental relaxation. And there's going to be a couple of different imageries that are going to occur. If you think you're not great at imagining things, you could practice just right now for a second, look up at a picture, and then close your eyes and see if you can recall it. That's all that visualization is. Okay, and looking up helps, it accesses that part of your brain to recall imagery. Okay, I'll show you the posture. Then I got to get my chair. I know. It's okay, puppy. Those of you who always wondered what's behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. Okay. And now I'm going to lower this so I can sit down, because I'm going to relax while I do this. Okay, so you want your rear end against the back of your chair. You want your feet flat on the floor, not crossed. You want your hands to just rest comfortably in your lap, just whatever's comfortable, so that you don't feel any stress on your shoulders or your elbows. I usually have my hands end up being like this, but do what works best for you. And then think of your head as a helium-filled balloon and your spine as the string. All right. And all right, so you're in that position. Okay, now everybody close your eyes. Take a long, slow, deep breath through your nostrils. Hold it for a count of 3. And then slowly exhale through your mouth. Take another long, slow, deep breath. Hold it for a count of 3. And then slowly exhale through your mouth. Take another long, slow, deep breath. Hold it for a count of 3. And then slowly exhale. Whenever you take deep breaths like this, you are relieving stress. Now focus your attention on your feet, your toes, your ankles, the soles of your feet, and the tops of your feet. And cause them to be in a deep state of relaxation, going deeper every time. Now focus your awareness on your calves as you continue to breathe slowly and deeply. Notice if there's any tightening in your calves, and now relax and release
all stress and tension in your calves. Be aware of your knees and place your knees in a deep state of relaxation, going deeper every time. Now focus your awareness on your thighs and place them in a deep state of relaxation. The more you practice, the easier this becomes. Your legs may now feel as if they no longer belong to your body, or you may experience a tingling sensation. Whatever you experience is perfectly fine. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to focus on your body. Now focus your awareness on your pelvic area and relax this completely. You may feel it as if it's your abdominal area, and this is often an area that feels stress. So notice if there is any tightening, and then relax and release. Feel your buttocks against the seat of the chair, and relax and release any muscles, tension in that part of your body. Continue to breathe evenly and deeply. Now focus your awareness on your chest. Notice if there is any tightening in your chest. This is often where anxiety is experienced. And relax and release any tension or stress in your chest. Now focus on your back, your lower back, your middle back, your upper back, and place your entire back in a deep state of relaxation, going deeper every time. Now focus your awareness on your shoulders. Notice if they are hiked up at all. If so, just relax, let them drop as you continue to breathe evenly and deeply. Now focus your awareness on your upper arms, your elbows, your lower arms. Place your entire arms, both arms, in deep state of relaxation. And now focus your awareness on your palms and on each finger and thumb. Your entire arms and hands are now in a deep state of relaxation. Again, you may feel a tingling sensation or as if your arms and hands no longer belong to your body. Whatever you experience is absolutely fine. Now focus your awareness on your neck and your throat. So that's inside and outside. Relax and release any tension within and without your neck. Now relax your head by first focusing on your jaws and relax them completely. Relax your cheeks, your nose, your eyelids, your eyebrows and forehead. Place your face in a deep state of relaxation, going deeper every time. And your scalp. Notice if there's any tension or stress in your scalp and cause it to relax completely. You are now at a deep state of relaxation physically. It feels so good to release tension and stress in your body. The more you practice, the better the benefits will be. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 6 and cause a sound with my fingers. At that moment, I want you to visualize a lake. It could be a lake that you've actually been to or one of your imagination. You want to see a body of water that you can see the shore. 1, 2, 3. Now notice the sun is rising over this lake. Notice any possible motion of the water. If the water is wavy at all, make it now to be still and smooth. See how still the waters are. So very calm, still, and smooth. In a moment, I'm going to be quiet so that you can enjoy this place of relaxation. When you next hear my voice, you'll feel as if you had just the right amount of refreshing, relaxing rest. Relax. Relax. Take a deep breath and go deeper. Now repeat these affirmations after me, mentally to yourself. Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better. I'm in the process of coping with stress in a healthy manner. Emotionally, I am stable. Physically, I have a strong immune system. Spiritually, I'm growing in the virtues of faith, hope, and love. I know that I am capable of coping with whatever comes my way. I am so grateful. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 6 and cause a sound with my fingers. That moment, you will be wide awake, fully alert, feeling fine, in perfect health. 1, 2, coming up slowly now. 3 at the count of 6, you'll be wide awake, feeling fine. 4, 5, 6, eyes open, wide awake, feeling fine and in perfect health, feeling better than before. Okay. How was that for most people? Okay, good. So that was placing you in a deep state of relaxation. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. For those of you who have to go, I understand, but I'd like to process this just a little bit. Anybody know why I used a body of water?
For the calming effect?
Yeah, for what?
The calming effect.
Oh, the calming effect. And why is using a body of water calming? What are we mostly composed of?
Water.
Yeah. So as we are actually relaxing the water, we're actually relaxing ourselves from the inside out. So you may notice that there are different parts of the body that I mentioned that people often carry stress. Different parts of the body stand for different things. Usually if you feel stress in your abdomen, that's because that's the seat of emotions. Your chest, like I mentioned, is usually often anxiety. Our backs, the lower back is support. The upper back is feeling too overly responsible. Notice people don't say, gee, I'm in so much stress, my big toe hurts, right? I mean, so our bodies will hold stress in different parts of our bodies, depending on what is the weakest part of ourselves and the thoughts that we're thinking. So I didn't do, because of time, I didn't do that one. The other things I would suggest besides, by the way, doing that relaxation technique, you don't have to be concerned if you're doing it perfectly every day.
and then put in the new affirmations will be really helpful. Okay. Also, surrounding yourself with positive people and positive reading. If you want, you can assist your where you're going with a professional coach or mentor, such as myself, just because we help you see things more objectively, head you in the right direction, and give you accountability. I also wrote a book. If any of you are interested, you can purchase it from me. Go look on the website. If you want to have an autographed copy, let me know. And this is my contact information. So thanks to Women Resource Center for having me back again. I love helping people feel better.
Thank you, Trudy. Hope everyone has a wonderful day now that we are all de-stressed and relaxed.
Okay. If anybody wants just to call for a free consultation, feel free. Okay. I'll be glad to talk with you.
Thanks, folks. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay, thanks. Bye.